All right, everyone, welcome back. We're now getting into section 2, which is all about gaining clientele, more so about marketing. So, in this section, we're going to be focused on who. Okay, so who is your possible client type, and how are we going to attract them to come to you rather than you constantly having to feel like you have to go to them and spend all of your energy sifting through a bunch of leads that are not interested. Okay, so let's get into what we're doing today. All right, so first thing is we're going to talk a little bit about the bad marketing, what to avoid. Now, there's a bit of context to be said with this as well, so I'll explain that when we get into it. So, next is going to be the hopeful future, how to make it, what is it, and what's the purpose. The 5 pillars of marketing, just to make things super simple so that you have a system of your marketing. Getting the right clients, selecting the perfect client, what your message should be to attract in your people. What are some different tactics that you can utilize to get your people coming in? Your marketing system. What is a cash surge maximization formula? Some different marketing strategies so that you can utilize a bunch of different tools at your disposal. And then the giving versus asking ratio. Okay, so let's just dive right in. So when it comes to business, it's marketing and sales over everything else. Because without income, you can't afford to do anything else. So no matter what your business truly is, if you don't go out and tell people what you're purchasing or what you're selling, and how much things cost, and you don't market to the right people, well, eventually your business is going to shut down regardless of what it is. So in this section, it's all about deciding and figuring out who your client base is so that you can key in exactly to making sure that you have a very direct approach without spending lots of time on spinning your wheels on client types that are maybe not your type or can't afford your services either. Okay? So the first thing we're talking about is just bad marketing. Now, when it comes to bad marketing, I put down just a list of things that are quite common. Now, there's a few asterisks on these. So it comes down to context of dependent of who your client base is and who your demographic is. So I'll explain. So number one here, so leaving your business cards or flyers at local businesses or bulletin boards. So this is something that, maybe you would have had in your local mall in 1992, right? It's not very common anymore. Now, dependent of your client base is the type of person that's going to actually look at these bulletin boards. Otherwise, putting your stuff out there for local businesses and bulletin boards, it kind of makes you look cheap, and you may get the cheap type of clientele coming in. I haven't seen a lot of success with myself or any of the other gyms. I've never done it myself, but I can't see that working. Okay. Taking out ads or magazines in magazines and newspapers. They might say print is dead, but it all depends on if your client base, again, is actually reading that magazine or the newspaper. Sometimes you can get a free article in a newspaper, which can be really handy. It all depends on, can you actually write? Are you creating content? And are you creating something that's longer lasting? And do you have the stamina to keep up with it? To put in that much effort for very little result. Next is sending out emails. So specifically with no call to action. So just sending out spam emails to people. It's super common nowadays. Everything can be unsubscribed. So to make sure that you're not being unsubscribed, you want to make sure that you're giving out great content. And it's about a 10-to-1 ratio of giving people some information before you start asking for someone to come in for a consult. We'll get into a little bit later in this section as well. Next is billboards. So unless you're a giant conglomerate or you have a unlimited marketing supply, of funds to put towards marketing, billboards are just not the way to go. Bang for buck is just not there. Next is going to be garbage on social media that has no value to your market. So we've all seen this on social media. So whether it's the individual is just posting selfies left, right, and center, they're posting just bad posts which have nothing to do with anything, nor does it have anything to do with people actually committing to them or wanting to start with them. So things to keep in mind when you're doing anything social media wise, make sure that it has a call to action at the end, which means that they're going to be clicking on a link which will lead to a consult, or it's leading them down your sales funnel in such a way that you're giving out great info that people do not want to leave your page. So keep it positive, keep it professional, and keep it towards your demographic as well. Next is Yelp. So leaving reviews on Yelp. I don't know anybody that uses Yelp. I think it's a little bit more popular down in the States than it is in Canada, but it's not worth your time. Groupon. Oh, how I dislike Groupon. So Groupon is a fantastic place for businesses to die, in my opinion. So this is where you're going to find, the businesses that are just scraping by, giving away their services with hopes that they're going to be gaining clients from this. But it gives a perception that it's a cheap business, and people generally only buy the Groupon and then don't return until there's another Groupon that they can purchase because they know darn well that there's going to be another one coming up. Next is constant sales or promos, which can then become expected from your clientele. So this goes hand in hand with Groupon, where if you give too many promotions, the clients are going to understand that you're always going to have a promotion, which means you're going to wait for the promotion and just buy everything that's on sale. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with creating promos or creating a coupon. It's just making sure that it's few and far between, and then it's giving back to your clientele just to get a few people kind of maybe back into the swing of things, and then taking them away so that they purchase at the real price because you are worth it. Next is free listings on Google. So specifically free listings. So if you're doing anything on Google, make sure you're actually paying for it. You get what you pay for directly on there. So any of the free ads, nobody's seen them anyways. You're going to be getting a lot of spam from that Google account as well. So make sure that you're paying for it if you're actually on Google, which will increase your search engine optimization as well. Handing out swag. So this is very similar to like a billboard. If you have a ton of money that you can just throw away into swag, by all means. So Globo gyms are notorious for this. It's great marketing if you have $1 bazillion that you can throw at it to give out gym bags. But if you're a small independent or maybe you're a private trainer, there is pretty well zero return on your investment handing out swag. Now, selling clothes is a totally different strategy, and that's an instant profit margin on that, though it's pretty low, and it's a great marketing strategy as well. Now, spending the whole session recording your clients for social media. Now, I would say that this is the one that bothers me the most because people are spending either $1 a minute or more to have you coach them. It is not them coming in for you to utilize this time for free marketing. Now, to give you kind of a concept of maybe where I'm coming from this is imagine you actually hired a photographer. They are recording you, actually training your clients, and then you post that onto social media or wherever you're posting it. Think of how much better it's going to be with your clientele seeing you train everybody. Now they're looking at you with your clients and your fantastic service rather than them obviously understanding that you're the one recording and not actually coaching them. So doing a little bit for self-promotion is one thing. Spending your entire session doing it is completely the other. So understand the difference. Okay, so these are just some things that you should be mindful of moving forward. So marketing and sales aren't about you, your product, or your service. They're not even about the features or benefits of your product or service. Rather, marketing and sales are about painting a compelling and hopeful future for your prospect. So the whole purpose of sales is not about the idea of what are they buying and how are they buying it. It's what are they going to be able to do after utilizing or purchasing your product that's going to affect them in the long term. So we have to think of it as what's in it for them and how can we paint this hopeful future, which is going to get them inspired to want to start with you right away. So that's what we're going to focus on first and foremost is how do you create your own hopeful future? Because this is a fantastic explanation of your business. And this is a great way to be posting as a company launch or a personal training page so that people have an understanding of what you offer, who you are, what you offer, and what's the result of it. So I'll show you exactly what I mean by this. So the hopeful future is when telling people about your product or service, you shouldn't be talking about what it is and what it does. Rather, you should be talking about what they can do with your product. The first is about you, while the second is actually about them. Because people buy things that help them solve something in their lives. So when you're doing this, just constantly keep in mind of what's in it for them. It's not about your certifications that you have behind your name. It's not about how long you train that client. It's not about necessarily even the transformation challenges that you've had, because it's not about your actual client. That's about other people, and it's a great way to showcase it. But they have to have an understanding of how it's going to affect them and why do they care. So here's an example. Okay, so I just made it pretty simple. So here's how you create your own. So you want to write down who you are and what you do. So the example here is, my name is Ben, and I run a company called PT Sidekick that offers mentorship for trainers, guidance for gym owners, and sales solutions for all. So it's super simple. You want to always say exactly who you are and where you are coming from within the very first sentence. Then you want to get directly into what are you offering and for what type of people. Next, now you've described that, we want to get into writing down the features of your product or service. So the example here is the PT Business Essentials course includes a 200 plus slide presentation covering the art and science of sales and PT business. B, an online evergreen, which is self-paced, learning portal with videos, lessons, lectures, and online mentorship. And C, a private group page for interacting with other gym owners, trainers, and fitness professionals. Now, what you can do here is just really think about just switching out the words on the little script on this one here. And as you're writing down exactly what you're providing, we want to think of who are you providing this for so that you can make it very apparent for the actual clientele. So for instance, the reason why I use these words here for trainers is that most trainers have the conception that sales is very much a poor thing to learn because it has such a bad connotation, which is why I said the art and science of sales. So it's more or less understanding that sales process. Self-paced or online learning with portal videos, lessons, lectures, and online mentorship is just making sure that they understand that they can be doing it at their own pace, wherever the heck they want, and exactly what's coming with it. And then just a bit more social interaction for the private group page for interacting with others. So for instance, you could be doing the same sort of thing with your clientele base. So you could be saying that you have, a face-to-face interaction. You have a group page for all of your clientele, and you're covering, you could even say, the art and science of physical movements and mental fortitude. However you want to really think of that, but it just comes down to who is your clientele. I'm going to say it over and over again. and what sort of words are they really going to be focused in on. Now write down the benefits of your product or service. So example here is the PT Business Essential Certificate. Helps you master the sales of science and business so that you can focus on spending less time struggling to sell and more time training. Study at your own pace anywhere with the added help of a mentor waiting to guide you along the way. So again, same sort of idea where it's spending less time struggling to sell. So that's the problem. And then the solution is more time training. So study at your own pace. It's a solution anywhere with the added help of a mentor waiting to help you along the way. All solutions to the problems, which are generally the problems of the trainers. Now you want to write down the hopeful future people can expect when working with you. With the PT Business Essential Certificate, you'll master the most effective PT sales system, helping you gain and retain more clients in less time. You'll feel competent and confident in any sales scenario with any client, and you'll be able to deliver your product in a smooth, integral, and professional manner every time, all while remaining profitable. So big areas here that I'm really trying to focus in on is helping you gain and retain more clients in less time. So most of the time it just takes way too long to gain clients, or people are gaining clients and they can't retain them directly. Maybe this is a person that can't lose the weight and keep the weight off. So it just keeps coming on and off, on and off. So we can be talking about that so that they can feel confident maybe in their own clothes. So here is competency and confidence. Is I need you guys to feel competent in exactly what you're doing, which is going to increase your confidence level as well in any sales scenario with any client. So you'll be able to deliver your product in a smooth, integral, and professional manner. So a lot of times people will think that sales is very much a skeezy, slimy sort of product, or the kind of that used car salesman sort of idea, which is why I purposely put in it. We're keeping it integral. So it's the same idea when it comes down to your client base. Is all I'm trying to showcase here is I'm showcasing the problems that most trainers have, and then creating the solution and the wording that they generally like to use within my hopeful future. So I want you to do the same thing for your clientele. Now, next thing here is the 5 pillars of marketing. So number 1 is know what people want. Number 2, your marketing message. Number 3 is telling absolutely everyone about it. Number 4, your scoreboard. And number 5 is your marketing system. So really, really simple is if you were to think of, a small kid that's got a lemonade stand outside of the front yard. Okay, they have the similar sort of 5 pillars of marketing, and I'll kind of explain here. So number 1, a little kid that sits out front on a hot summer day understands that their people want something refreshing. Okay, which is why they put lemonade outside. Their marketing message, they put a little sign out in front of their table, and then number 3, telling everybody about it. They get out in front of their darn table and they start screaming to the world, knocking on their neighbors' doors, bothering the neighborhood kids to tell every single person about it. And then their scoreboard is when people come in and they start purchasing things, they're going to start figuring out, okay, well, 1 out of 3 people are going to purchase this many, or, I'm almost at 100% close ratio right now, which means I'm going to sell out much, much faster, which means I actually need more product to come in more and more. And then the marketing system. So the marketing system is going to be, how do we attract people? How do we keep them here? So nurture them. And then how do we make sure that they continue on? Okay, so I'm going to touch more based on that very soon here. But I hope that kind of analogy works, because it doesn't matter what we're selling. And I'm just saying that, even a small child understands the importance of understanding what people want, designing a marketing message, and then telling absolutely everybody about it. So pillar 1 is knowing what people want. Now that you have your hopeful future laid out, you can focus on who, since you now know the what. You have to start becoming obsessed with knowing absolutely everything there is to know about your clients or your potential clients. Now, when you're for everyone, as in you're promoting for absolutely every single client type, hoping that you're going to get just any sort of lead coming in, and I'm going to try and sell every single person I can possibly get. They're actually for no one, because no one's really understanding your message, because it's very complicated, or it's convoluted, or it's vague and confusing. Only market to one single market at a time. The businesses that become the best gym for their target market will ultimately win. Now, if you were to think of the different gyms in the market, okay? Now, if I were to ask you, where is the bodybuilding gym? I guarantee you're going to know where the bodybuilding gym is. If I were to ask you where the powerlifting gym is, you're going to know where that is. If I were to ask you where all the good-looking people go, you're going to know where that is as well. And then you're going to know where all the 50, 60, 70-year-old ladies go as well. So these gyms that market directly to these individual demographics are the ones that are going to win directly, because they know who their audience is. So then they key in their marketing to directly influence that key market. Now, would it make sense for the bodybuilding gym or the powerlifter gym to go out, do a bunch of bodybuilding or powerlifting strategies and marketing systems, and then all of a sudden throw out a low impact curves sort of workout with pneumatic machines in a circle so that the ladies can just chat? That wouldn't make any friggin' sense. So it's the same thing goes with your gym or with your client types, is that you have to understand going after one type of market is best. You can always expand on that, but go into one market. So continually staying in the middle or having a confusing vision will dramatically reduce your success. So once again, what I mean by the middle is, let's just say this is the bodybuilding gym, and let's just say that this is Curves, okay? And if you don't know what Curves is, because I think it's pretty much discontinued, or they shut down, is basically just a circle of pneumatic machines that a bunch of old ladies sit at, and they chat like a bunch of clucking hens, okay? Way different than here. I'm not saying one is greater than the other. They're just totally different. If you stick kind of in the middle, where you don't know about if you're bodybuilders or if you're 60-year-old women, then you've sent out a very confusing message, and you're not really going to see success from either one, because the 60-year-old women don't want to come to you and the bodybuilders don't want to come to you either. Just as an example. Next here, so selecting the perfect client. Move my face. So 3 different things to focus on here. So number 1, do they have the money to support your business goals? Can they afford your services? Pure and simple. And if they can afford their services, can they consistently show up? Will they be consistent? Will they be consistent with their payments? Because this is something that they can actually fit into their budget long term. Or is this just a one-off? And then if they have the money and they can be consistent, do you actually want to help them? If you are marketing to the older generation, do you enjoy training them? If you market to the bodybuilders, and I'm just using a completely black and white sort of demographics here, do you enjoy training them? So for instance, when I first started, back in early 2000s, I wanted to go more for the bodybuilder type because I thought that was something I wanted to do. And then I figured out real quickly that I didn't enjoy training the bodybuilder type, just not my kind. And the most profitable decision I made, was to market to about 40 to 65-year-old females. So that is primarily who my target audience is now. They show up, they are consistent, they can afford it because all their kids are gone, they talk, they bring me cookies. It's fantastic. They are such great clients in comparison to what I had. Maybe I just didn't have the greatest clients as a younger trainer training dudes that want to get bigger. but it was by far the most profitable decision I've ever had because they also come during the middle of the day, which means that it actually gathered so much more time for myself and for my own family. Just as an example, okay? So maybe you're starting off right now and you're thinking like, oh, well, my perfect client is ABC. Well, maybe down 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years down the line, maybe that changes and that's totally fine. Or maybe you attempt to go for one client type and you realize that that's an error because they can't afford it, or their time slots don't align with the time slots that you want. Just understand you can then switch your client type, but then your marketing might have to switch with it. So let's focus now on, what do you need to do? So everyone that hires a coach is ultimately looking for one thing. So it's personal attention that's delivered in an awesome way. So when people show up, how are you reacting to them? Do they feel cared for and acknowledged? And I mean like outside of the context of normal coaching interaction. So do you know their kids' names? Do you know their pets' names? Do you potentially know their birthday? And if you do know their birthday, do you bring it up? Do you know when their vacation is on? Like how many of the inner workings do you actually know about these people? Because that's going to go over and beyond just regular interaction, especially because you see these people maybe 2 times, 3 times more times per week. You may spend more time with these individuals than you will your actual family, because I don't necessarily have 1 hour where I just speak to an individual in my family with nothing else happening. Okay. So as we're going through this really, really works especially for online clients as well. It's just that extra little bit of personal touch is very, very important for retaining your clients. Now, after you've decided on your one primary market, you then need to know absolutely everything about that market. And the best thing is that if you already have that market coming into your gym, the best marketing research is actually on your gym floor. So, easiest thing to do is, stand up and go out on the floor and start talking to these members. You'd be amazed at, if you just create a good relationship with them, how much information that they're going to be willing to give you on what their own pain points are and how you can better serve them in your gym. So not only you're going to actually increase your retention, you may gain a few clients of your current members, but you're then going to understand of how to market appropriately and see if they can even, if you're allowed to bring in a photographer of you training these individuals so that you can then market it to more and more and then get some testimonials. Fantastic marketing system. So this is the marketing that's going to tell you what to say to them in your external marketing. So anything you send outside of the gym. So hopefully this is helping so far. So next is we're going to focus on your message. So this is pillar 2. So most marketing doesn't work because it promotes who you are and what you do. Now, you are not the hero, the client is. Okay? Now, I understand that this whole thing's called PT Sidekick. That's just because from my context and my view of me helping you guys, I'm basically the sidekick and you guys are the heroes, because I feel like every trainer is literally helping save the world in so many words. But when it comes down to when you guys are with your clients, the client is by far the hero, and you guys need to understand that. Okay, so people go through life thinking, what's in it for me? And I know you guys do as well, because so do I. So the people we market to have problems that they want them solved and explained in a way that they understand. So again, you have to think about who your client type is, what the problems are that they are currently facing, and what sort of solutions are they going to currently need. So for instance, my client type right now is between the ages of 40 to 60. So I generally train higher executives, CEOs, very professional types. So the problems that they have is they don't have the time to do anything because they are constantly traveling to and from everywhere, which means when they come in, I need to make sure that they understand that I am in control so that they don't need to worry about anything. They just show up and I take over. Not in a bad sense, but so that they can relax and just turn their brain off, because they realize that they can then trust me to take care of all of the issues that they have. A second issue that they're having is that they constantly are eating out, which means that I need to develop easy to make, easy to take nutritional guidance and tips so that they can then take that with them to work. Another area that they're having is stress. Stress is through the roof. So anything I can do to get them a little bit more mindful, teaching them how to breathe properly, is going to be very, very, very important. And then also making sure that they understand that I'm not just going to be teaching them everything, but I take much more of a mentorship approach so that we can both be learning at the exact same time, so that they can learn what I know, so that if they have to go to a gym outside of my gym, let's just say like a hotel gym, that they can continue on because they travel so much. So this is just a simple example of, the type of clients that I currently have, and just some things that I'm recognizing that their issues are, which means I'm going to start providing solutions within my marketing to attract them towards me. Hope that makes sense. So next, now that we have your message, it's the next thing we're going to touch on here is going to be your elevator pitch. Now, I know that you've probably heard this before. It's super, super common. So this is going to be your one-liner. This is going to be, if you were to go into an elevator with somebody, you have 30 seconds to explain exactly what you do and how you help. Okay, so if you were to think of, I'm going to give you two different examples here. So the first one here is really, really simple. I'm giving you an example of how you're breaking it down, and then I just wrote down one so that you have an understanding of how to create your own. So first one here, we help this target market do this sort of benefit without all the stuff your market does not want to be part of. So all the bad things, such as we help people aged 40 plus lose weight, gain energy, and live a more active life without fad diets or workouts that beat up their body. So this is a very simple elevator pitch template that you can utilize. You can enter in your own areas, and then just kind of play with it. The second elevator pitch template is like this. So I help this kind of people to do this sort of action or benefit so that they can have some sort of brighter future or more inspiring benefits, such as I help new moms get active and eat better so that they can drop their baby weight and feel more energy. Or I help busy executives find time in their schedule for healthy habits so that they can finally get their health under control. So for instance, for myself, that last one, the busy executives one, would be pretty good. So this would be a really easy thing that you could have at the top of your Instagram page. This is something you could be adding in on your social media. You could have this at the bottom of your email list as well, kind of like tagged in there. So it needs to be very simple so that people understand of what you do, how you're doing it, and who are you helping, more or less. So these are just a few different examples. I hope that makes sense. So now you've got your elevator pitch, you have your message. Now we have to start telling everyone about it. So this is, think of that little kid outside of that lemonade stand just screaming to the world. This is what you need to do. Okay, scream to the world what you do and who is it for. So gyms are often relying on one way to generate leads, which is usually dependent on a third party to get the leads for them, which has crippled many of them. So third parties such as Gym Lead Machine or UpLaunch or any sort of company that's providing leads and providing nurture systems. Now, there is nothing wrong with these companies. I currently use one of them, but it is only one area of lead generation when we should be trying to focus on multiple lead generations all at the same time. So a lot of times I get the question of, where should your marketing be? And frankly, wherever your target market is. So whether they are online, whether they are at the stores, whether they are reading emails, whether they are reading your article, whatever, make sure that your message is in front of your demographics. So the best running gyms have at least 5 lead generators happening all at once. So here are just a few different examples of what some different lead generators are, and I have a slew of different strategies coming up at the end of this section here. So if you don't like these 5, by all means, you can utilize the other ones as well. So for instance, Facebook ads, emails with useful content and calls to action, an active referral machine, Google ads, and joint ventures such as chiro, massage, physio, all really, really good areas. So for instance, these 5 are what I currently have running at the moment. Joint ventures is probably one of my strongest ones, and Facebook ads at the moment. But you want to think of having those 5. Okay. That way, if 1 or 2 or 3 dry up, at least you have 2 more that's happening at the same time. You can always swap some out at the same time because they take a little bit of time to start building up. Think of it as like a wave where you're going to start building, and then you're going to get this flood of leads coming in, but they don't all come in just like that. So now that we have your message and we know where you're sending your marketing, we now want to start figuring out, are you winning or are you losing? So the number one thing to ease your marketing frustrations is the data that tells you if you're winning or losing. So, we're all trainers. So this probably sounds very, very similar to nutrition, macro counting, or food journaling in the sense of people mostly get frustrated over their eating habits because they don't know what they're doing well or what they're having their issues on. So what do we tell them to do? Write it down. When you write it down, it becomes real, and now you've created some data so that you understand where your issues lie and how can you start patching up the areas that need help. So knowing where the issue is will give you the control, and it will tell you what to focus on, because not having this is just like trying to drive a car without a steering wheel. You're going in a forward direction, but you're kind of crashing all over the place. You might be going backwards. So we want to make sure that you're going in a nice straight line and you understand where the start and where the end is. So for example, if you were to create yourself a sample scoreboard of saying, I need to get 2 contracts, you can even say a week here, and I have about a 50% show ratio, and I have about a 50% or a 50% close ratio and a 50% show ratio. Then you're going to have an understanding of, how many leads you need to have coming in, how many consults you need to have coming in, and how many contracts you're going to get. So for instance, if you had 6 leads coming in, that's going to convert into 3 consults, and you had, slightly better than 50%. So it's 2 contracts from there. But what if you only had 3 leads come in? Well, obviously you might be coming down to 2 contracts, 2 consults, and 1 contract. So the issue here isn't necessarily the contracts or your conversion, but the issue could be potentially the leads. But if you had, let's just say 6 leads come in, you only got 2 consults from those 6 leads or 0 contracts from that, then you know where the issue is lying because your leads are doing well. You then need to focus on your show ratio or your close ratio. So you have an understanding of what area you need to kind of focus on to increase your competency so that you can start closing a little bit more effectively. Otherwise, you just don't know. You know that you're spending a ton of money on marketing and you're not closing anything, but you don't know where the gap is or where the hole in your system is. So if we can think of the same sort of idea, but on a grander scale, so this is from a gym's perspective, let's just say you want to take your client base from 80 to 160 members in the next 12 months. Obviously, you're going to need to gain another 80 net members. So if you go 80 divided by 12, means you're going to need to increase on 7 members a month. From there, you're going to need to have in factoring, you're going to be losing some people. Your attrition probably won't be at 0. So generally it's around 3%. So if we were to have losing 2 members a month, which means you need to get 9 net new members a month, and let's just focus in on maybe you have a 50% close ratio, which means you need to have 18 people walk into your gym, which means you need to have 36 leads to get those 18 if you had a 50% show ratio. So if we broke that into a weekly goal, you need 9 leads, which will convert into 5 consults, which will be closed with 3 net client gain. So when you're looking at it from an 80 to 160 members in 12 months, it can be very overwhelming, but broken down into simple weekly goals. So 9, 5, 3, as long as you get your 9 leads in, which is going to go back into your 5 marketing types, you should be able to convert them into your 5 consults and then convert those 5 into your 3. So I hope this kind of that simple math breaks it down to make it a little bit simpler for the grander picture. So last pillar here, so pillar 5, so is your marketing system. So this is where we're going to kind of put everything together from system 1 of attracting the people to you, so getting them to come to you. System 2 is getting them to come in, which is nurture. And then system 3 is conversion, so getting them to buy at the right price and buying more often. So after you install these 3 systems, you're actually going to give yourself the power back to understand where you are going well and what you need help on. And this is really going to help you in the long term as well. So system 1 is attraction. So the attraction is all about the tactics you're going to use to get someone to raise their hand and just say, you know what, I'm interested in what you're selling. I think what you have is a fantastic product. I want to learn more. The biggest mistake here is not using multiple methods and just waiting for something magically to happen on its own. And I cannot tell you how many trainers do this. They just literally sit in the back office. They just sit around their gym and they just wait for people to walk in, but nothing is actually out there for marketing. It makes zero sense. And every so often, you're going to get this rare chance that a person's going to walk off the street and be like, you know what, I have a few $1,000s to just spend on personal training or on some sort of training. But it's super rare. Okay, you need to be able to have that attraction out. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting there twiddling your thumbs. Okay, so what do I mean by having multiple methods? Well, this is going to go back into the 5 marketing types, so such as having a referral system. So most gyms or trainers say this is the biggest source of their highly qualified leads, and yet they do nothing to stimulate this. They have no referral machine. They have no referral system whatsoever, and they don't even focus on this. They just focus on cold leads all the time. And I can't tell you how frustrating that is to hear that, because referrals are not even just warm leads, they're hot leads if done properly, where they should know how much you cost, they should know your hours, they should know how good you are, your reputation, how much you retain your people, which means that the people are already coming in to say, yeah, I want to sign with you, and it's just a negotiation for how long and can they fit in your schedule. The second one here would be websites, so such as like social media. So most people focus on how pretty their pages are. So the secret here isn't how pretty it is, it's how to get your sites to convert visits into clients. So first and foremost is it doesn't matter how many followers you have on Instagram or how many friends you have on Facebook or whatever other social media outlet you have. It's how many of those people are actually getting converted into paying clients. Numbers and likes do not matter. It's all about the money that you're generating. And generally, from my experience, the people that are liking your products or liking your pictures are not the ones that are paying you for anything. Last one is Google search engine optimization. So, you'd have to think that the largest search engine in the world is probably a good place to start your marketing. Again, when it comes to this, you want to pay for it to get yourself at the top of that search engine list. so that when people are searching for personal training or when they're searching for a gym in your area, that you're the first gym to come up. System 2 is nurturing. So, you need to understand that human beings are exceptionally indecisive. And the easiest way to kind of understand this indecisiveness is just think of when you have a discussion with a loved one of what you want to eat for dinner. Okay? I don't know. What do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Over and over and over again. Or if you're looking to purchase a vehicle, not everyone's the same on this, but how many websites you look at, how many times you click on different cars, how many times you go and look at vehicles, but you do nothing. This is called tire kickers, by the way. So it takes anywhere between 7 to 10 times or visits for people to make a decision. So think of that person that's been inside your gym and they seem like they're kind of on the fence or they seem completely disinterested. It doesn't mean that they're disinterested, they're just not ready yet. And a lot of times the people that are just kind of watching in the background are just indecisive because people are not natural decision makers. They need you to make their mind up for them based off of your message and your marketing. So not having a nurture system is leaving serious money on the table. And what I mean by nurture system is when people say no to you. So let's just say you do a consult. You do the whole thing. It's fantastic. You pitch them. They say no, I want to think about it, or just no for any sort of reason. You should still have their information, like their email, their phone number, everything else. We then want to nurture that client by getting them onto an email list or just keeping them inside your gym so that we can nurture that relationship, because it doesn't mean that they are no forever. Okay, they could just be indecisive, which means down the road they could say yes. So having this nurture system is actually going to decrease the anxiety considerably, because when people don't buy, you understand that if they're still around, they may purchase down the road for a larger ticket price. Okay, so people that go on hold are actually telling you that they may quit. So you just want to dig in a bit more on why they're going on hold so that you can understand where to fix the hole that's within your gym or within your training, and why they feel this way. People that leave are not telling you that they will never come back. So easy rule of thumb here, keep talking to people until they tell you to go away and stop talking to you. So take that how you want to take that, but you want to keep them on the email list until they click unsubscribe. Keep them around. Everyone knows that button exists, and you're not doing anything wrong by sending them an email and keeping them on board for as long as you possibly can. Again, they might come back because about 15% of new members are generally former clients. Okay? Now, when you're building your team, there are two different types of trainers. Okay, so two different groups. So Pete Dupree calls them hunters and farmers. I call them an offensive line and a defensive line, whatever you want to call them. But you're going to need both to gain and retain. So the hunters, or the offensive line, are the people that can fill your gym very, very quickly via sales. They're generally a bit more charismatic, very good at sales. And the farmers are the people that are going to nurture all of your clients heavily. So they may not be the greatest at sales, which is okay. You don't need a bunch of salespeople on your team. These are the people that are going to care for your clients. They're going to keep them around, and their service is impeccable. So making sure that you have both different types on your team is very important. Now, hunters are not always A-type. They're not always super charismatic, but they generally are people that just draw people to the gym like in droves, okay? Where the farmers just keep them there. So what's the best way to nurture your clients? And what's the easiest way to gain new clients or get new clients? Is just keeping the ones you have. Okay? You got to keep the people you have. So if you want to not focus on sales, stop losing your people. Keep them going, get them to renew, which means you need to keep people that can afford your service for the long haul, not just for a one-time thing of 10, 20, 30 sessions, but it needs to be for, the next half a year, the next year. Anyone that purchases over 9 months, which is a little tip, is about 80% more likely to renew for another year on year on year. People that purchase 3 months and less have about a 60% chance of finishing their sessions, not renewing, but just finishing their sessions. Most of the time that people that purchase lesser sessions have a hard time finishing because their commitment level is not there or the financial backing is not there. So just keep that in the back of your mind for deciding on who you're going for to make sure that they can actually afford it. System 3 is all about converting your people. So you've attracted them, you've nurtured them, now we need to convert them into paying clients. So this is through the process of your consultation, which is going to be your on-the-floor assessment and approach, which is what I'm going to teach you more of. Then your pricing strategy, your upsell or downsell. So it depends on if you have multiple levels at your gym or within your facility. If you are a level 5, for instance, and you showcase your price, the person doesn't want to purchase your price because it's just out of their range. If you were to showcase a level 1 or 2, you're much more likely to still get that client onboarded because the comparison between the price of a 5 and a 1 is dramatic. It's about half the price, which means the person will feel like they can afford it and you'll still gain them on, okay? And then lastly here is your back-end sales strategy. So it's just selling to an existing customer multiple different services. So this could be, selling personal training, and then if you have a physio in the building, taking them to the physio, and then a massage therapist. This is why a lot of gyms have tanning beds as well, and then they sell supplements or merchandise. Same sort of idea. So next area here is just talking about the cash surge maximization formula. So this is just taken into account of the attraction, the nurture, and the conversion system. And this is more on the gym size scale, but it's very important that even trainers understand where the money is coming from, because the gym needs to make money for the trainers to make money to make sure that they all stay open. So for instance, if you drew in 18 leads a month and you had a 50% show ratio, you're then going to have around 9 consults a month and around a 50% close ratio, which means you're going to have 4 members, which is going to be 1 a week. And those 4 members then purchase personal training, which is about $400 a month, which is on the low end for personal training, by the way. If you did 400 times 12, each of those 4 members will then have a $4,800 bill at the end of the year. If we were to have that from all of the people throughout the 12 months, we're going to have 48 new members. So 48 times 4,800 is $230,400 in new revenue by gaining those 48 new members or just having 18 leads in per month. So you're only 1 client away a week from adding almost over $250,000 to your gym. Okay, so this is on the low end as well. So I did 2 different examples. So this is low end, and this is the average side. So we're the same numbers. So 18, 9, 4, but you cost more as a trainer, which means that each one of these 48 people are actually spending $200 more a month. So $600 a month is a $7,200 average per year, which is going to equal to $345,600 in new revenue. So fantastic revenue coming into the gym from just 48 new members. Okay, this doesn't mean 48 new members. These are just either returning, renewing members or new members, just 48 period. But none of this is going to happen without any sort of leads or any that you nurture long enough to purchase and repurchase over and over again. And the longer you go at it, the longer or the more clients you have that can renew, the more revenue you're going to automatically generate every single month, which is a lot easier to manage as well. So it's hardest in the beginning. So as I said, I added in 2 pages here of marketing strategies. So I'm not going to go through all of these. I've sent the PDF version of all my slides so you can peruse through them. But there's, a good 18 on this page. So there's more than 18 because there's multiples in each one. And then, up to 37 here. Now, the most lacked marketing strategy that most trainers will have is number 37 actually here. So the easiest marketing tip I have is just asking people if they want to purchase personal training. Okay, you don't need to get super fancy with this. It's just asking, if they want to purchase personal training. Do not forget that you need to ask for the sale, and do not be afraid of it because you're offering a fantastic service. Okay, so make sure you take a good look at these strategies as well. Last thing here is the giving versus asking ratio. So I touched on this a little bit in the very, very beginning, where to give amazing free educational content to your audience at a higher ratio than you ask them to buy something. So rather than always promoting your personal training service directly, I recommend adding in some content that will allow your prospects to move smoothly down the sales funnel while indirectly increasing their certainty level before even meeting you, which basically just means that they're more certain on understanding that they want to purchase with you before that they've even met you, which means that they're just going up on the certainty level of, once they sit with you, definitely they're going to purchase. Okay, so you're increasing the likelihood that your show ratio is going to go up and that your close ratio is going to go up, and the less work you actually have to do in less time. So what sort of things can you give? So if you're a good writer, you can write an article, a booklet, or a useful handout. If you have a skill for design, you can create some infographics or workout journals. If you love to cook or bake, you can create some healthy recipes to share. Or if you like being in front of a camera, you can make some free educational content or how-to videos online. So the easy ratio here is anywhere between like 8 to 10 gives before an ask. So this is the greatest way to have this is via email. So if you can get people into an email thread, into an email drip, you can also call it, that you're going to be having people getting an email, either once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, depending on what your ratio is. And then it just leads them closer of at the very end, you can have them saying, well, if you like all this stuff I'm offering to you, click on the consult so you can learn more for personal training. Okay? Because it all comes back down to the simple phrase of what's in it for me, as in what's in it for the client. You need to give them before you get something. Now that we've gone through all of the marketing, I'm just going to go through the objectives for this section. So number 1 is I want you to write your hopeful future and share it on your social media. And I want you to make sure you tag me to increase your accountability on this as well. Now, go back to the hopeful future, look at what I wrote in there, and then alter it so that it fits towards your client type and what sort of message you want to send out to your clients as well. Next is going to be describing your perfect client and what sort of problems they are facing. 4 is going to be writing your elevator pitch. So you can use a few of those templates I provided. You can even Google it for elevator pitch if you want to find some of your own. And then 5 is creating some content. So that could be anything from writing an article, a blog, creating some workout journals, some infographics, some baking, or some meal design, or even just creating some content for social media of maybe how to do a movement pattern your demographic is going to need to have. Now, I want you to tag me in that as well for some extra accountability when it comes to this as well. Next is what 5 marketing strategies or sources will you focus on to have your 5 different types that will happen at the exact same time as each other. And then what are you going to give your clients to eventually get? So this ties directly back into your 5 sources, as well as some content that's going to start attracting your perfect client. Okay, so I hope that marketing really did help. If you have questions, make sure you write them down. As the next section, we're going to be focusing on the what, the when, and the how, because we have now figured out the who. Okay, so I'm really excited to go over that with you guys. See you then.